Ken, are you waiting for me?
Yeah, George, how are you?
Fine, how are you, Ken?
I'm terrific.
So the weather is 54.
54 degrees and sun.
When I was 54, I had pimples.
You're starting already. You know, I was about to give you a big introduction, but I don't know what can...
Yeah, let me hear it.
I don't know what can be said.
Now.
You have been on radio. People can still catch your radio shows occasionally when some radio station...
Well, Gracie and I were on for 19 years. A lot of radio.
You were on television for I don't know how many years.
Yes.
Hey, Gracie, as I recall, and I think you told me this before in a conversation we had, Gracie originally was a straight man, wasn't she?
Well, Gracie, when I met Gracie, she was an Irish actress. She was not a comedian. She was a dramatic actress. And we worked together the first day we worked together. I was doing the comedy, and she was asking the questions. And the people laughed at the questions, and they didn't laugh at the answers. So I reversed it and gave Gracie all the funny stuff. And then I noticed if you gave Gracie a sarcastic line, the audience didn't like that. They didn't want that to come from her. And when she said something silly, they laughed. So the audience really found Gracie's character. And then from then on, I wrote a lot of stuff that was off center. That fit Gracie. And I'll tell you what my talent was. Now it's different. You know, a lot of Gracie rubbed off on me. After all these years, I'm 85 years old. I've been around for a long time. When we first started, my talent was really off the stage. I knew exits, I knew entrances, I knew how to switch jokes, I knew how to write a joke. So I was able to think of things and do things off the stage, and Gracie was able to do them on the stage. And that's what made us a good team.
You seem like you really enjoyed working with each other.
Oh, yes, we did. Mm-hmm. We did. You know, I mean, it was wonderful for me. You know, I said to Gracie, how's your brother? And she spoke for 38 years.
You know, you talk about that in the book, Living It Up, Where They Still Love Me in Altoona.
That's right.
And also The Second Time Around, I believe that's the title of the other book.
Uh-huh.
But, you know, you hear about so many sad stories in comedy over the years, and I guess you were probably a rare one, really, to enjoy life.
Well, I've always, I'll tell you, I've been very lucky. When I was 7 years old, I sang with 4 kids. We called ourselves the Pee Wee Quartet, and I fell in love with show business, and I'm still in love with it. Mm-hmm. And Gracie loved show business, and Gracie loved me, and I loved her, so we were in a business, we loved each other, in a business that we both loved. And we had a wonderful marriage for 38 years.
I remember Barbara Walters asked you this question on a special that she had, and she asked you what was the worst day of your life, and I recall what you said.
The worst day of my life?
Mm-hmm.
What did I say?
You said when Gracie died.
Oh, well, it was. And the greatest day of my life was when Gracie said she'd marry me.
Wasn't there a big bouquet of roses or something involved in your finally getting her to say yes? She was dating a couple other guys, wasn't she?
She was going on. She was in love with somebody else, with a guy called Benny Ryan. He was a very big talent. And we were playing Oakland, and she had appendicitis. She had to be operated. And Benny Ryan didn't send her any flowers. And I borrowed $400 from Gracie because I had to lay off for about 5 or 6 weeks until she got well. And I sent Gracie about, excuse me, I sent her about $260 worth of flowers. So she figured anybody that would borrow $400 from her and buy her flowers with her money must love her.
You talk about the rough times of show business. You had your tonsils out, and you still had entertained, didn't you?
Sure. Look, I did that. You couldn't keep me once. Tonsils. Who's bothered with that?
I mean, you had them out, and you were like on stage the next night or something.
Well, no, the matinee. I worked with Billy Lorraine at the time. I had my tonsils taken out the day before. So I told the manager, I whispered to the manager because I couldn't talk. I said, my partner will have to go on alone because I had my tonsils taken out yesterday. And Billy went on and didn't do very well in the afternoon. So the manager said, look, that's a bad act that your partner does by himself. If you can't go on with him, we'll have to cancel the act, cancel the show. So I went on, put tonsils or no tonsils.
And then after the act, I think Billy licked down your throat and passed out.
Oh, yeah, that's when we were standing in front of the hotel. He said, did you have your tonsils taken out? I said, I certainly did. I showed it to him, and he fainted, and I was fine.
Absolutely incredible. One of your closest friends, of course, was Jack Benny.
That's right.
I have heard many people say if there were two princes, I guess that's a good word to use in show business, all around wonderful people to meet, Jack Benny and George Burns would fit the bill.
Very close friends. He's a wonderful man, fine human being.
I wonder if you can tell us a little Jack Benny anecdote this afternoon, can you?
Yeah, okay. Jack Benny always stuck his neck out. You know, everybody thinks that I was a practical joker, and I wasn't. I never set up a joke. Jack Benny used to chop his own head off all the time, because he used to set up things to make people laugh. You know what I mean? And you can't do that. And so I was at a party at his house one night. There must have been around 100, 150 people. And he said to me, he said, George, he says, the party is getting a little dull. You think if I went upstairs and took off my pants and came down in my underwear with a lady's hat on playing the violin, it would get a big laugh? I said, of course it would. So he went up, and when he went up to get dressed, I made an announcement at the party. I said, Jack is going upstairs to take his pants off and put on a lady's hat and come down playing a violin. Don't pay any attention to him. And nobody did. So Jack laughed. But Jack would do that. He did that to himself. Like I met him once at the club. He said, I didn't sleep last night. I said, how did you sleep the night before? He said, the night before I slept great. I said, we'll sleep every other night. And he laughed. Well, what made that funny was the fact that Jack said he didn't. If I said to Jack, how did you sleep last night? Then the joke wouldn't work. The joke worked because Jack told me that he didn't sleep last night.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, if you told Jack a joke, he wouldn't laugh at it. Because he told them jokes, you know, that was his life.
But you could make him laugh by...
It was silly things that made him laugh.
Yeah.
Little crazy little things, you know, little nothings, you know, like... I was at a party one night, you know, and he had a string on the lapel of his coat, little white string. So I took it off. I says, I didn't know that there were these little strings on the lapels. Now, do you mind if I borrow it? So I took the string off his lapel and put it on my lapel. Well, that made him laugh. And the next day, I got a little box and put the string in the box and sent it to his house and said, thanks for letting me wear that last night. You know, it was crazy little things that made him laugh.
Do you recall a story that happened out in Hawaii? I think you were both really early in your careers, weren't you? When an older lady came over.
Yeah.
Do you remember that story?
Well, I don't remember it exactly, but I remember what this lady came over. She must have been about 80, 85. And then at that time, we were, Jack must have been about 70, you know. And she came over and she told Jack how she loved him. She watched him work, and she was a great fan of his. I says, Jack, I said, you've got it made for tonight.
And that put him on the floor, I'm sure.
Yeah.
What a wonderful career both of you had, and you still have it. In fact, your career picked back up after the Sunshine Boys.
After Gracie retired, I went into show business. I was retired while I was on the stage with Gracie. I did nothing.
So you had to work.
Oh, sure. Gracie did, memorizing all those lines that Gracie had to memorize. It's not easy because they were all non-sequiturs, you know. They were very tough lines. And our script was about 40 pages, and Gracie was in 30 of them. She worked very hard.
Was your TV show done in front of a live audience, George?
Yes. Sure. Oh, no, it wasn't. No, we used two cameras, and then we would take two shows and show it to a live audience. And that's the laughs that we had in the shows.
So there was...
They laughed, you know, we'd sweeten them a little bit, but not much.
I loved it. I don't think I've ever seen it since where you would actually step out and talk to the audience. And then all of a sudden go back into...
Go back into the show. That's what made the show a little bit different.
And you had a TV set that you could watch, and you knew what everybody else was doing.
I knew, Gracie was always planning to do something to me. I used to watch her plan it. Yeah, I got tired of listening at cracks in the doors to see what she was doing or hear what she was doing. So I just thought of the television set. And the sponsor at that time didn't want me to do it. He says, look, George, you can't do that. It's out of reality. I says, Dad, I'm going to do it. And I did it. And now you've got the TV sets in every condominium. They got them in Vegas. They got them in all the gambling houses. So you see, I was not only a comedian, I was also an inventor.
The show holds up today just marvelously.
Well, because it was Gracie. See, Gracie was not a comedian. Gracie was a very, very good actress. She believed what she said. And when you got that kind of delivery. It holds up over the years.
Mm-hmm. There's one other story, and I know a lot of times comedians help other comedians out with ideas. You and Gracie, as I recall, were working on International House with W.C. Fields. Do you recall that at the end?
Yeah.
There was a...
Well, Gracie was he was sitting at a table with I forget the girl's name, but she was a big sex symbol at the time. And Gracie was the waitress, and she hit him with a funny line. I wasn't in that scene. Gracie was W.C. Fields and this girl, this beautiful girl.
And this would have been really early in your careers.
Oh, yeah, into that one. And then Gracie hit him with this line, and she walked away, and it left him with egg on his face. And I forget the director, and he called the director over, and W.C. Fields says, I need some funny piece of business or a funny line to say here after Gracie leaves. I feel so silly sitting here and just looking. So I went over to him. I said, look, Bill, I said, you've got a glass of water and you got a glass of scotch on the table, scotch and salt, and a cup of coffee. I said, why don't you take 2 pieces of sugar, put it in the water, mix the coffee, and drink the scotch? And he did that, and that got a big laugh, and from then on he loved me.
Have you ever run across anybody that isn't open to suggestions like that?
Well, I don't know about anybody else. I know I am.
You love it when...
I listen to everybody.
You love it when somebody tells you something
You
like
betcha.
that. Yeah.
I got some very good stuff from people that were not in show business.
I don't know what it is about George Burns and why the attraction. Everybody in the world loves you, and I think it's wonderful. I don't know who else has ever written a book and included pictures of their grandchildren in it. I think that's a nice touch. And one of the sweetest things I think I've ever heard said on TV is when, again, back to the question that Barbara Walters asked you. She asked, what was the saddest day of your life? You said when Gracie died. And then you added a little something that maybe other folks might try to help get over the death.
Yeah, that was very good. Well, when Gracie died, you know, it was, don't forget that when I was married to Gracie for 38 years, I just wasn't married to Gracie. Don't forget, I dressed with Gracie. I slept with Gracie. I worked with Gracie. I was with Gracie practically 24 hours a day for 38 years. That's a lot of days. So when Gracie passed away, I just couldn't make it. It was very tough for me. And then finally, we had twin beds. Gracie slept in one bed, and I slept in another. The last couple of years, we had twin beds. So I moved into Gracie's bed, and the thing worked.
Just by sleeping in her bed, you felt a little closer to her, huh?
I bet.
Then you went and you would talk to her occasionally, wouldn't you?
I talked to her every month.
What would you ask her to do?
I wouldn't ask her to do anything. I'd just tell her what I did. Sometimes I would tell her a joke. I don't know whether she hears me, but I see it makes me feel good.
That's terrific. George, again, I thank you very much for visiting with us.
Okay, thank you.
November 16th, the Christmas special.
16th. Very, very good special. Watch it. I know I am.